Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Yariv, Wolok, my partner in crime, Vasili Gianarakos, for another episode. Vasili, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, Yariv, doing good. We're back again. Another episode, another week as usual. I'm getting pretty ramped up. September 21st, training camp begins. Hockey season's finally around the corner, and we're finally going to get a lot of question marks about this team answered, right? Because there's just so much surrounding the team that we just really don't have an inkling about just because, new coaching staff, a lot of younger guys into the mix. So it's going to be an interesting couple weeks. What do you think, Yariv?
Yeah, I mean, this is like that weird time where like you want to get excited, but it's like so close that you don't want to get like too excited because like there's like that false hope of the rookies coming in, not even false hope, but like the false excitement of the rookies coming in. You're like, oh, camp has started, but like not really, not officially. So like we're there, we're like pretty much there, and next week we got a good episode coming up, and we got some other stuff coming up, but there's now officially stuff to talk about.
Exactly.
Kind of. We're
We're like
a week away.
Exactly.
You're like a week
away from real storylines.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. We're about a week away from things being relevant again. And that's cool. But this ended up being appropriate that it's just the two of us doing this episode because I think, one, this is like our fun ones because we can just talk about nonsense the entire time if we want. And like I kind of have I brought this up to you prior to the show, so I have like a theme for this episode, which we kind of do when it's like two of us. And I took like all the topics you sent me, I threw them on here too. But the theme that I was kind of like thinking about, because I think it's you brought up some topics that I think kind of align to this anyway, right? Because we talk about coaching, captaincy, and whatnot, but like leadership, right? It's like it's not just leadership from the coach's standpoint or the players or the captain. There's obviously the GM. But like that's kind of the overtone to this. And like I brought it up and I was saying this to you prior, right? It's like I keep asking people to define what it is that makes John Tortorella like John Tortorella. And like everybody keeps saying the same thing to me, which I still do not agree with, which is that he holds people accountable. I think every coach holds players accountable. I don't think you make it to the NHL without doing that.
Yeah,
I think
you're a professional in that case.
They just have different ways of going about it. And we'll go through we can go through leadership on all standpoints here, but I did want to start off with torts before we get into the other topics. And you had a topic for it, but like first thing, I do want to talk about his leadership style and everything, but do want to ask this question because I want to bring this up first before we talk about like his style.
Sure.
Are you prepared for a complete failure of John Tortorella being a coach here? I'm talking about like first year, no change. Like we see the same team we saw last year.
Am I prepared for that? I would say no. I would say I'm pretty much of the mindset that Tortorella is going to make an impact in a certain way, even though it may not directly translate on the ice. I think you'll see a lot different in terms of like how players carry themselves. As a team, obviously, he's going to, bring that culture, team mentality back. Because, there's been rumblings that's kind of been lost in a lot of the shuffle and just the team doing poorly. And obviously, losing is a spawn of that. Winning will help kind of bring that culture. But at least for Tortorella, I do see improvement on the ice. I don't know if it's going to translate to wins or anything like that. But I think you'll see the team play better, more structurally, and then ultimately when you're doing that means you're playing for each other, and there's obviously a reason to that because they believe in the coach and what he's bringing to the table, and I think he'll get that out of these guys because he's shown in the past, frankly, the track record of doing that, right?
And that's kind of why I bring this up is like nobody's really talking about the fact that like it's been brought up. I don't want to say nobody. Definitely people brought it up. I think Russ Cohen has definitely brought it up. Like he's always kind of cautioning, hey, look, this could blow up in your face, right? But the thing I think about is like nobody really talks about the potential that like this team just doesn't take to Tortorella at all. Now,
yeah, it's possible.
Do I think that's likely? No. I think this team is kind of looking for a lifeline, like the players. I think they're kind of looking for somebody to believe in them, which is why I want to talk about leadership and all that. And, I brought this up on here before, but I just realized that like we're so, I listen to enough of the podcast and you even hear people's tones have changed to be even slightly more positive than they were, understandably so, at the end of the season. And like people are very open to the idea of Tortorella. Like people believe in him, even generally, even if you don't like him that much, you're still not like, well, he's a pretty good coach, right? Like nobody thinks he's going to come in. This situation is going to be worse off after he gets here. But like,
No, exactly.
but is that possible?
I mean, I would say anything's a possibility, and the reason being, if we're going to go to leadership, is what if his leadership style specifically doesn't, I mean, mesh or fit in with certain players? Who's to know? Because we are unaware of what that actually is, because we never met the guy. Technically, we've never been in a room with him when he's having these types of conversations that would actually bring a team together or get players to buy into a system, and that's what it takes, obviously, to do those things is leadership. I mean, if you want anybody to kind of ascribe to what you're preaching them, what you're teaching them, or buy in, to a team mentality, obviously you're going to need to, show belief in them hand in hand, I would say. Personally, that's my belief, right? If you believe in people and you show, faith into them, then they will usually give you their all. Going back, obviously, it doesn't work that way for all people. I mean, everybody has different opinions, different perspectives in terms of how they're gonna react to certain things and certain approaches. But I mean, that would be my take on it anyway.
Yeah. Well, the reason I want to think about it, it's like kind of a bummer even to think about because you want to get excited for the team, but I want to bring it up because we are a positive podcast. I mean, we generally try to look for the optimistic side, and I want to consider that position that like, hey, this might not work out at all. I mean, I think it's unlikely, just from like the personality, what we've seen so far. But like, for instance, if the injuries are still there, like,
well, then there's nothing you can really do.
But does it end up the same as AV though?
I don't know if it ends up to the sense that you have, like, you visibly see players trying to quit on a coach and getting blown out 6.
You think that's
nothing,
like what he can avoid?
Yeah, he could probably avoid that because it's his first year. Players are going to want to impress him, so they're going to want to be. Like, let's say if somebody, like hypothetically, right? Like if you're a younger player on this team right now, and a repeat of last year occurs, and Sean Couture is injured, and Kevin Hayes is injured, you're a young guy licking your chops. You're saying, well, we have a new coach who signed for a while. We have these big looming vacancies in prime positions on a roster. Like, this is my time to like make a mark, right? And show the coach that I can be the one to fill a void like that. I mean, there's no telling if that actually will happen, and like those players will rise to that occasion, because last year we saw what happened. Nobody really rose to any occasion. The team was just terrible, right? So sometimes too many injuries, and depending where they are and what they are too much to overcome, really. But I do think that with Tortorella, and at least the fact that he's a newer coach, if those injuries do come into play, there's going to be more response from players versus Avino, where he's already kind of with the team for years. The season before did not go well, and players kind of just quit on him. I think it'll be too early for a full quit on Tortorella, something like that was to happen. But yeah, what do you think, Yariv?
I think that's smart. I think that's probably a wise answer. I think it probably buys him the year, and maybe that's why we're so optimistic about it. You typically see a coach come in, kind of get some excited. Like we even saw a little bit we saw it with Yo, right? Like the team we won on a winning streak with Mike Yo.
Yep.
And it's just like that is pretty normal. So I think you're probably right there, but it doesn't really feel like he's gonna screw up. And that's why I wanted. Really. That's why I wanted to talk about like the leadership thing, because I think that is something that I think it's kind of. I'm not saying it's been sorely lacking here, because I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know what happened, but there was leadership prior to this. I've watched this team turn around during a season. I've watched them have closed door meetings. I've watched them battle back during games. Somewhere along the line, this team lost that.
Yeah.
And it came amongst, we need to change the locker room. We need to, remember that whole thing? We need to shake up the core. Yeah. Shake up the core. And I made fun of everybody when they said it. And how much shaking did that do? And how much good did that come? Like, none at all. Yeah. Actually, you can make the argument
the team
that it
got worse.
Destructive, which is exactly what I said it would be. That is not how you operate. It's honestly, it's very upsetting to see what has happened here. But I will say, majority of the things that have led to the damage that has exceeded the bad luck, right? Like not just Coots getting injured. You can't blame that on GM, right? Like
No,
players,
that's
like
it's a
besides that
physical
stuff,
sport. Anything can happen.
but the decisions that were made that are bad, majority of them reflect things that the fan base was echoing for a
Yeah.
long time. And the more we behave that way, the worse our culture gets. And this does not mean the fans create the problem. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you behave like an angry mob as an organization, that's what you get. Right?
Yeah.
Like when you start blaming each other and ripping things out and trading to shake up the locker room and all that. Like these are human beings. They might not agree with you. Two,
Yeah.
you also have other groups of people to manage. You have people to move in and out. This is why I always hate when people make excuses about the people around them. I hate when our fans do it. I hate when coaches do it. I hate when players do it. I hate when GMs do it. It is a waste of my time and theirs. And if I think that one thing that Tortorella is going to bring here, and this is what I expect, and I think this will help bring me peace of mind, is I expect none of that anymore coming from at least the locker room.
Yeah.
Like if he is unhappy about a player, it'll be some random rumor that comes out of somewhere. It won't be him standing out in a post game going, you know, this guy doesn't, whatever. I don't know.
Well, we lost because of him, or
Something like that.
throwing the team under the bus. So, well, I think that's honestly a real symptom of it, right? Is like Vino back in his tenure. You saw, rumblings or him at least starting to in the media. I mean, specifically pick on players, and I think if you're going to do that, you have to bring it to the player beforehand. Where, I mean, based on kind of what's happened here, it doesn't seem like that's something that he did. Where, I mean, you could say, you know what, it's a professional hockey player. He's an adult. They're adults. They should be able to take criticism from their boss, which is very true. But when you're on a platform that you are as a head coach saying it out in the media like that, like a player would like to know beforehand if you're going to, rip them or give it to them because they might think themselves, you know what, it is deserved. We'll do this and then we'll bounce back as a team. And then it's like a collective effort, right? Almost. But when you don't, do things like that, that's when things kind of crumble. And Tortorella has been known in the past not to be somebody who operates that way, right? Like you're going to know where you stand with him. The honesty and the communication is going to be there. And I think that's going to be vital because I think that's something that's been lacking within this organization. Like you've been saying, like there's always been that, we need to shake the core up because obviously something's wrong with our players. We need to move on from them because they're not good anymore. Or there's something wrong. We don't need them anymore. But what was really the root of those problems? We don't know, right? So that's the hard thing for us to assess. But also, I just really think that when you have a coach that puts belief into you, or just a person in general that puts belief into you, you're going to want to perform for them at a higher level. Whereas I don't know if the team felt like that was happening with Vino. I felt like it was more of like a battle versus like what, we're a team and we're facing this together. Because it seems like with Tortorella, there's always a rhyme for a reason. Like he's going to call a player out in the media because he knows the player can do better, and we probably went to him before he even called him out before the game. Let's say before he performed poorly, and this is why this is happening. And said, you know what, I need more from you. I need more from you. And then he's going to go after and say, well, I needed more from you. You didn't give it to me. Now I'm gonna give it to you in the media, but you're gonna see that what, if you would have done things my way, or if you would have ascribed to what I was going for, then this wouldn't have happened potentially, right? And that's a learning experience for the whole team. So I think that's more of how things need to be approached in the future because this is something that Dennis Bernstein was kind of going into last week when we had him on. He was saying that the new player is different, right? Everybody wants to know what's happening. They want to be communicated to. Just because you're communicating with somebody and you're a coach or a boss or anything, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're like stooping to their level or that, you're still not their boss at the end of the day, but that's just how you get things done in this day and age, I would say, right? Communication is more of a key.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just interested to see what happens with it from that standpoint. He's such a critical part of this team that there's so much riding on him.
Yeah.
That I am so focused on this leadership element because I do believe that partially the reason that we're here is whatever happened in the leadership standpoint, right? Like, again, you don't look at this team on paper and go, oh my God, they're considerably less talented than the team that finished even 500, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not. So, but they were playing like the worst we've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
it was a nightmare. And I still don't believe it was a
Well,
talent issue.
no. Well, I think a lot of it started with what we kind of probably are pointing to, right? There's some sort of issue with the coaching, with the leadership. And then once the losses start to take effect, it's a professional sport. You just get caught up in this spiral, and then it's just never ending. They couldn't get it
Yeah.
back. Couldn't get it back onto the tracks,
Well, the
really, right?
injuries were definitely
Didn't
an
help.
offense.
Yeah, the injuries did not help that either. But
Yeah. So I'm not prepared to be disappointed. We'll end with that. No, I'm just kidding. Though I do want to talk about that because we are positive. We're assuming everything will be positive, but we don't really know how this year is going to turn out.
no.
The one thing I will say is like, eventually something's got to give, right?
Well,
Like,
yeah, the team, I mean, has had terrible luck the last season. They've been very bad. I mean, I guess you could point and
and
say,
unlucky.
and unlucky. Yeah, I guess you could point and say that, you know what, they didn't make the moves this summer to be anything otherwise, right? To
I
be
think they
better than bad.
who had them at the bottom of the division and all but one voting. I think it was like the Athletic or ESPN or something.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, most outlets have them last.
Yeah.
A good majority, even Vegas, the odds makers have them last as well.
Yeah.
Which, you know what, though, it doesn't mean too much because Vegas doesn't really pay attention to hockey. So if you're going to listen to their
Look,
lines anyway,
that's true.
it doesn't really matter. You can probably make some good money if you go off of Vegas.
I was gonna say, yeah. I would say like this is the year maybe because it's so impossibly hard to predict how good they will be
Yeah.
that betting on them to make the playoffs, it's not a safe bet, but might be an interesting bet because
It'll be a nice payout if it happens
Torts
for you.
just has that history of doing that. It doesn't mean this team is
Has
capable.
has the cachet of doing it too, yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, so let's start getting into the players actually. And there's that awesome trailer that came out. Oh man, why can't I not remember what the thing is called? Chris just sent it to
It was
me.
like over the boards or behind the boards, or I know Wade Allison was like
something like that.
Into it.
Yeah, and it's on Allison, and I forget the other
Beyond the boards. Beyond the boards.
Thank you. I watched the trailer like 2 weeks ago,
yeah,
or a week ago, whatever. But it was cool, man. I mean, like, and you look at a guy like Allison, he
looks hungry,
so pivotal. And let's go to one of your topics that you wrote, and I'll move it up the list here. But bottom six battles, right? Like,
yeah.
It's going to be really interesting this year, and there is actually a lot of really interesting conversations there to the point where I'm sure if you like polled the fan base and you included all of the players available that could be in the bottom six,
varying responses,
right? Especially if you're like, who do I want there?
Well,
not who I think Torts will put there.
Yeah, for the listeners, I'll kind of list off who I think would be in those battles.
Yeah.
So Morgan Frost, Noah Cates, potentially an Owen Tippett could be, on the third line. Then you have, Wade Allison, Tanner Lasinski, Zach McEwen, Patrick Brown, Nicholas Delorier. You got Scott Lawton, could be a bottom six option as well, technically. I mean, obviously they're going to make the team, but then you have some of the more of the bubble guys where you get into like Ratcliffe, even a Tyson Forster potentially as well. I think those are on the bubble.
Wisdom, even you have to consider.
Zade Wisdom potentially could make an impact too. I mean, if you look at from there, probably those guys are probably the ones that are on the bubble. Like they'd have to have a great camp to make it.
Yeah,
a Wisdom 100%. and a Forster, and
100%.
then players.
Unlikely.
Yeah, players that are right on the bubble that could or could not, depending on how it goes, is probably Lasinski, Allison, Ratcliffe.
Yeah, you got to
consider and then
Ratcliffe.
McEwen, Patrick Brown. I think all those guys are all going to be competing with one another.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see. I don't know where McEwen.
Well, Ratcliffe is not waivers exempt. Like has to be brought up, and that's an interesting tidbit in all this for me because I feel like a lot of people aren't mentioning him. And if he gets sent down, he can get claimed.
He would. No. He not could. He will get claimed.
6'6". Yeah.
He will get claimed. Yeah. Because he already played in the NHL last year and had some success already. I don't know why a team would not take a shot on that.
Yeah, well, because and you have to factor to NHL management offices are like, very cocky in terms of like what they think they can do. So they'll be like, well, if the Flyers couldn't make him a player, we'll do it. You know what I mean?
Well, we know. Look, in my opinion, you waive Patrick Brown, you waive McEwen because both of them are easier to find replacements for.
100%, but. Who knows what's actually going to happen? Though.
Well, I don't want to. I'm not going to assume that they're going to treat Ratcliffe like Nicholas Aubé-Kubel. Like, I like
until they give him a chance actually in the NHL first.
It's not even just that. I think Ratcliffe's ceiling is higher. I think they have recognized that for a while. I think they see him as a long-term project from the very beginning. And I think he is the exact type of player that this team would covet, which is a 6'6" physical player with scoring upside. They would be stupid to let that type of player
go. Talk about Flyers hockey.
Yeah, you're not. This is the type of big guy you need who has skill that you could play in your bottom six. And I think with the fact that Wade Allison is still waiver exempt, I mean, he will probably not start off on the team. Just sheer contract wise, they're just not going to do it. Other guys, they should probably waive. That hopefully they are smart enough to recognize you can lose Zach McEwen. I don't want to lose Zach McEwen, but you can. You do not want to lose Isaac Ratcliffe.
What? Too, now that you have Delorier as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I expect that kind of waiver to come.
Yeah.
And then I expect a guy like Ratcliffe. I actually expect Ratcliffe to potentially make this team. You look at what he did last year. Like, I don't know, man. I'm just like not as interested in even playing. Like, I like Patrick Brown. I like McEwen. I was even vying for McEwen to move up the lineup last year. But I'm like, if I'm like really trying to put this team together for the future, and I'm looking at my long-term assets, like I'm willing to waive those guys. I'm willing to potentially lose them to start the season. Or
you have to see what these younger guys are, right?
Exactly. Like I'm not willing to lose Ratcliffe. I'm willing to lose
that
the
age,
other
guys. These guys are what? Lisinski's 25, Allison's 25, Ratcliffe.
Lisinski has the injury history.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose Lisinski either, but like
But I'm saying, like, these guys are starting to get to that age where, like, it's uber bust is what I mean.
Yes,
like,
exactly.
You
need to find out.
Yeah, Lisinski's 25, Allison's 25, Ratcliffe's 23.
And they need the experience, too.
To show.
They can't just find out by putting him into 2 or 3 games at the NHL level.
No, you got to play him consistently for, at least my opinion is, like, to really see what somebody has, ideally to cut it, you'd want a full season. Because a full first NHL season for a rookie in this league can be very up and down. But I mean, even if you're looking at like a sample size within a season, look at 30 games. Yeah. Like usually the first 10 games are a feel out. The next 10 games are like, okay, I see what I need to do to improve at this level. Yep. And then the last 10 is like, let me put it into action,
Yeah.
So that's the way I kind of look at it. But I mean, it's time for these guys. So like personally for me, I agree. Like Patrick Brown, I wouldn't have him on the team. Zach McEwen, I wouldn't have him on the team.
Patrick Brown would be like my 13th.
That's what I mean, 13, 14, 4. Not to say that like they can't fill in every once in a while and be serviceable or anything like that, but as everyday, NHL players in the lineup, that's not 2 guys that I'm really looking for. When you have so many younger guys just like vying for a spot right now, and then the potential to that even, a younger guy could surprise. Like if Tyson Forster comes in and rips it up, like you have no choice. He's your first round pick from 2 years ago.
That's a good problem to have, though. I'm willing to deal with that problem if it happens. Right?
Oh yeah, exactly.
And not that I was saying you weren't saying that, but it's like hopefully that is a problem we need to deal with because then we trade from a position of strength. And if people see that Tyson Forster is good, they're going to try to trade for him immediately. But they're going to want the reality is, and people might not agree with me, the Flyers have depth on the wings right now. Like we bought out Lindblom, who signed like this in a heartbeat.
Tons of depth.
Again, we have plenty of NHL cap. Do we have enough elite talent? No, especially with the injuries and the question marks around them. But like
top 6, top 9 talent.
Yeah, like we have that. In fact, we have a lot of it who we thought would be better, but either haven't played from injuries or whatever, or have taken a step backwards. So like a lot of these guys, like you need to start. Like I need to see what Isaac Ratcliffe can do.
Yeah.
Like now, and not just me. I mean, like if I'm GM, if it's even close to a risk of losing this guy, like we can't do this anymore. This is the season to get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Like you're not that competitive off the bat. The expectations are low. You don't need to put all this pressure on all these guys. See what unfolds at camp, and then you can be aggressive. But like they haven't done enough with these guys. I'm glad they gave Ratcliffe like real chance. And that's
a cup of coffee. Yeah.
Well, that makes me think that they agree
that he needs more time eventually. Yeah.
That he's close.
Exactly.
That look, if push comes to shove,
Yeah, they don't have a problem with him in the lineup. Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. And the question is like, where does Tortorella fit in and all that, right? Where he most likely will have a bias for older players, veterans, right?
Yeah. But there's going to be a lot of guys like you can't, even though
That's the
people say
problem.
that, he has a bias for veterans. You can say that all you like, but at the end of the day, like if they go into camp and these younger guys are skating circles around some of the older guys that are also vying for those bottom six positions, trust me, they're gonna go with the guys that are a lot better.
Yes.
Like
Well,
that's just how it goes, right? Like he's biased to an extent for veterans, but veterans that can perform at the same level as that younger guy. You know what I mean? That's my opinion. But
I'm not going to comment on Torts, but where I think most coaches go wrong that I think upset fans is that the margin for error for a younger player is smaller.
Of course.
Than
Always
a
get
veteran
benched
player.
quicker.
Right. And that's what I'm hoping we don't see.
Yeah. Well, he said he kind of changed that a bit, right?
Yeah.
When he's like opening, kind of press conference, he said he's kind of changed a couple of things and learned that, you have
been
to be
every coach I've seen, though. I've never seen a coach do anything but that. Have you? Have you seen a coach?
That's true. Say they're not going to, I haven't
that?
learned from my past. Oh, yeah, exactly. So who knows? Until we actually see it happen, it's all words at this point, right? Actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
So we will see, obviously.
And fans always have a bias for guys who make high impact plays, where coaches, they like high impact plays, but they also like guys who do like the little things right all the time that most of us wouldn't even notice. And they're just like, I know that guy will turn, like, I know what he's going to do every single time. And it's like, they like that.
Yeah, it's like the thing that you actually know is going to make you more comfortable, right? So, like, if they know, like, well, I can put Patrick Brown out there and he's going to give me a solid 12 minutes and he's not going to make any mistakes in his defensive zone. He might not score for me, but he's not going to do that at least. Versus, like, well, I can put in, a Wade Allison or Isaac Ratcliffe and they might take a chance and burn me, but they also might score a lot more goals than the other guy. That's a lot safer, right? So, there's a win-loss, I would say.
I'm still hoping that Scott Lawton is in the bottom six so we can make our bottom six competitive.
I agree.
And we elevate these young guys up to potentially scoring roles. And like I like what John Stevens used to do in a sense where he would do a lot of pairings of players, right? So then you can intermix that third guy, right? So you find like Coots and TK or whatever, Atkinson and Hayes. Tippett and Frost, right?
And then you can
cycle exactly find players to fit around them, and maybe that's not the case. It's fine. Like I'm open to a lot of stuff, but I really am hoping that like we stay with the strength down the middle. We do not turn our fourth line into the leftovers line. I don't really believe in any of that anymore. Like, why can't we just have a good team? Why can't we just have all good lines and put some young kids who maybe are not 100% ready in some scoring positions when we're not that good of a team? If you're a good team, I get it. If you're competing for playoffs and your margin for error is non-existent, I get it. But if you're the Flyers' current position or what the New Jersey Devils have done well over the past few years, and if you notice, they have some pretty good, like, what's the guy? I love their winger, the Russian guy, Sarakovich. Is that it?
Sharangovich, yeah.
Sharangovich, great shooter. That guy probably wouldn't have got a shot here on the Flyers.
No. But, I mean, that's the thing, right? The team needs to start trying to put these younger guys into positions to succeed because that's how you ultimately develop a guy. Okay, let's say you're a player and
Tippett is the guy I really want to see get
let's say you're a player and you scored at a lower level. It's because you're playing with players around you who are at the same talent level, helping you succeed as well. You put a younger guy on the fourth line next to, a player that isn't the best offensively. Obviously, it's not going to be the best place for them to find their scoring touch at the NHL level, right? They need to be with guys that see the ice the same way they do, understand the game to, from an offensive standpoint and know where to be to create those kinds of, scoring opportunities, things like that. So, like, I think that's 100% hit the nail on the head. Like the Flyers certainly need to get some of their younger guys into those positions, and now you even have some more opportunities, like you were saying, because they haven't been good. So there's no pressure if a guy goes into that top line position, then isn't the greatest because there wasn't really much expectations to begin with. So what are you losing other than potentially developing your own players, really, right, and putting them into successful positions? But yeah.
Do you think if the Flyers start off strong that there will be like a case of denial?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Everybody's going to say, oh, it's just, the new coach effect. Which till 10 games passes, which is totally real.
We would go, hey, look, we saw it happen in Buffalo. last
Exactly.
year, right?
Oh yeah, it's happened before in so many places, right? So sometimes a new coach fires a team up, but also players want to prove themselves to the coach and earn that ice time, earn that power play time. That's when you're gonna get into those positions, get into those roles beginning of the season.
Yeah.
The coach wants to rely on guys. He wants to know, okay, I can trust this guy here to perform for me.
Yeah.
And that's where players can kind of come in with the new coach and say, you know what, this is my time to shine. New coaches in here, new opportunities. It's not the same as it was previously, right? So,
Yeah.
well, that's why I think a lot of players are excited as well. And then just to jump off, I forgot to mention another guy we didn't really bring up for bottom six as well that might have a chance is Hayden Hodgson.
Oh
Forgot to
yeah. Yeah.
throw him in there,
No,
but like
he
I
definitely has a
thought
chance.
I thought he had
Definitely has a
yeah
chance.
I thought he has a chance as well, just for the cup of coffee you were saying. Similar to Rathcliffe, they wouldn't have called him up or gave him the chance if they didn't think he was close, right? So like it's crazy that there's just so many guys that actually are vying for these maybe I guess 8 spots if you count the 13th and 14th forward, but there's still a lot more than 8 of them.
You
So
know, and for back in the day when it used to be like, oh, there's a bunch of guys, but nobody are good. No, some of these guys are actually really good.
mhm.
Like Wade Allison is a very well. It's tough to call him a prospect at 25, but he kind of still is because he hasn't had the. That's why he still hasn't had the
Yeah,
games.
needs to
But
stay
like,
healthy.
but realistically, he'd already be an effective player
Yeah,
for
if
the
he was
Flyers.
healthy, he would
Yeah.
be a roster player.
Same with
Yeah.
Lazinski. Like these are not guys who are like scrubs who, most teams would just throw away. And that's why we have so many of them. We actually do kind of have this logjam. Again, what we lack is the high end talent. And again, I still believe we are just one elite center away from being highly competitive.
I agree.
If you can really turn this team around, I believe in Pro. I don't care if people don't. I believe in Provorov. So I believe in Provorov. I believe in Sanheim. I believe in Risto. I think D'Angelo can be a good player. I think Braun is obviously serviceable. I think Cam York has a lot more to give. I think this team, with the right coaching, the structure built, we're talking about how they can go throughout the season. I think ideally what we would want, at least I would want personally, is not to come out blasting, firing. Come out middling.
Yeah.
500, right? Some good games, some close, tight knit losses where you're like, damn.
Progressively start to get better.
That's what I want to see. And then as the season goes on, that they don't fluctuate. They're just consistently getting better and better. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, in the second half of the year, the Flyers were a playoff team.
Yeah. And you know what, if that, happened for them in the first half, they would have made the playoffs. Then you look to the offseason and kind of say, well, you know what, if we add this, this, and that,
yes,
then we're right there, right?
The fear is, I guess, is that you have the pattern of the past where the Flyers would like not start off great and have to battle their butt back. But I think the difference in this case is that we're really looking to see like, is Tortorella's system really taking place and slowly changing the culture and watching them unite as a team?
Yeah.
Or do they come in hot just off the sheer fact it's a new coach and they're worried about their jobs? And, some guys are healthy and they start off hot and then they kind of like finish off mediocre.
Yeah.
I feel like it doesn't say as much.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that could also happen too. I mean, ideally, you'd love them to start off hot and then still buy into the culture and just continue, being a decent team the rest of the year. That's the ideal scenario, but
possible. It's not likely.
But, yeah, it's not likely. I mean, personally, I think more of what you were saying earlier is probably what will happen. I mean, I just think that like new coach, it's going to take some time to probably get adapted to the structure, how he kind of does things versus what might have been going on in the past. And you got to understand, when you've been playing the game that the Flyers have been playing for 2 seasons basically now, which is unstructured, rudderless hockey, has no direction whatsoever.
It's like a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, like they have no direction on the ice whatsoever in terms of like their structure, help each other out, or really where they're going when they have the puck and things like that. Like getting those habits out of their game is not easy. Like these guys have not been used to playing a structured style. So actually, doing that and executing what Tortorella wants, they're going to have to put the work in, right? So, like, you're not going to see it happen overnight. So that's why I kind of think that you're probably right, Yariv, that we'll see them start a little bit slower. They might not be the greatest, and then progressively get better. Either that or probably the fire out of a cannon thing where they're just, like, so fired up because it's a new
I would
coach.
love that. Come on, dude. Oh, my God.
That
I
would
would
be
welcome
great.
that in a heartbeat, dude.
Yeah.
And, like, I think this city is dying for that, to be honest. I think everybody's tired of watching this team get beat up or... that's where, like, people might call me old school or I might make fun of me for this. I don't have a problem with them bringing in tough dudes at all. Like I used to
Yeah.
make fun. Like I don't believe in fighters. I make that very clear. I don't believe in a guy who just comes in to fight, and that's where like I see Zach McEwen, who I liked his game last year. If he can evolve that game, we'll have a different conversation. I might want to bench Delorier and play him instead. But I'm looking for more of the Ian LePerriere type of guy
Yeah.
who
A guy who can still be effective but also fight.
yes, and all like Tom Wilson obviously is the ideal version of that, but like Risto again, people can shit on him all they want, but the combination of what the guy brings, we haven't had somebody like that for a while here. And I don't know where this revisionist nonsense is coming from. People saying that he had a bad year. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't.
He was on the best pairing on the team.
I don't care.
I mean, the team was still shit.
In fact, I'd argue that if people want to point to analytics about him having a bad season, I'll show you this is why analytics don't work. Because that is not real. And that's why it wasn't reflected on by the team. Because you guys are using analytics incorrectly. And I brought it up over and over again. And I don't care that people think I'm an idiot. None of this stuff matters to me. There's a reason the teams don't listen to you.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean,
dude.
There's actually evidence too for like wrist the line in that. I mean, in terms of like zone exits, when he's on the ice, the team has higher zone exits typically because I mean they are not retrieving the pucks, but actually breaking up plays, things like that, and then the puck eventually gets moved out. And no matter how that's done, the puck's still out of the zone. So
well, my whole thing is like I didn't bring wrist like me as if I'm GM, but as a GM, I'm not looking. Oh, I'm going to bring in Rasmus Ristolainen so I can pair him with Travis Sanheim, and then the two of them will glide up effortlessly up the ice and do spin moves around one another. And like, what were you expecting? We literally knew we were bringing in a big guy who was physical, mean, liked to make people's life a nightmare, and could move for a guy his size really well. That's exactly what we got.
When people aren't measuring too, like you should look at when those two.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
In which also to enable Sanheim, and that's exactly what you got.
Yeah,
just wanted to add that.
Had his like best season in a couple of years, arguably maybe his best season ever.
Yeah.
So that's what you want. Like I said, they had the best defense pairing on the team for sure. So how can you really shit on them? That's the first thing.
They were the only complete pairing we had.
Yeah, exactly. But also one defense pairing doesn't make a team. Typically, if you have a team that has one good defense pairing, the team is going to be shit. So like realistically,
this team needs three.
Yeah, exactly. You need three. You need three good pairings. Where not having Ryan Ellis last season made one of them.
We also
incomplete, right?
I'm sorry to cut you off. We also do have to bring up the fact that like, look, I don't like talking about addition by subtraction for Keith Yandel. And there are times that he did some good things for this team, especially in the beginning of the year. He did not play very poorly in the beginning of the year, but the guy finished minus 49,
49, 47, something
along that. And he played about 13 minutes a night.
And a lot of those minutes were on the power play.
Yeah. So. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not an addition by subtraction, but he was not helping this team.
I'd rather have Cam York every single day of the week.
That's what like. You start adding all these together, you're almost like, it can't be this bad, can it? And let's talk about, I love that you threw this on the top.
Yeah, he was minus 4. He was negative
minus 49.
47. Yeah.
47. That's horrendous.
Real bad.
For a defenseman that's barely playing and was an all-star. He probably he should have retired last year. He didn't have it. I mean, it wasn't his fault that we were bad.
No.
We were bad, regardless of Yandel. But obviously they were like, okay, this team isn't very good. There's a weak spot. Attack it.
Yeah. There were critical points in games where the team would be tied or like have 100%. A power play, and then they give up a breakaway because he fumbles the puck or couldn't catch a guy, and then the whole momentum is shifting.
Well, the reason I have a problem with it is because Keith Yandel had such a great NHL career. He's such a great athlete, and you look at the way people are talking about him now, it's so fucking ridiculous. This is why I don't blame Hayes for being upset. It's like, dude, this guy was like an all-star his majority of his career. One of the highest producers, a pure offensive defenseman. In his prime, we'd be drooling over this guy. And now people are talking to him like he's a bum. I hate seeing that.
That's the thing with sports that sucks where, I mean, I think a lot of players try to pick their exit time because they typically don't remember you for what you did. They remember you for what you're doing now. You know what I mean? That's the only thing that sucks.
Think about Vinny LeCavalier here at the end of his career, which
same thing. Everybody thought he was garbage when he was one of the best players in the last 20 years.
And then I obviously went to Tampa Bay, or I forget where he was traded.
LA.
And then he did better, and then he retired anyway.
Yeah, still put up like 20 goals with them too.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. I was like, again, okay, actually, that's an amazing example. I'm so glad you just said that because I forgot about that. That he ended up like I remember that he did well, but I forgot that he produced much better for them. And we were a bad team. Again, LA wasn't a great team. Not like Vinny Lecavalier came in and lit the world on fire, but in the right environment, he wasn't. Again, Chief is a good coach. He proved he's a good coach. He's a Stanley Cup winning coach for a good team, a team that always has battle and heart. He handled the Vinny Lecavalier situation poorly, in my opinion.
Well, he needed to be on the power play, right? And the Flyers were giving him the time.
He also threw him on the off wing, right wing.
That too, but that's what LA did, right? They put him on the power play.
So, they just put him in the middle. The guy was a franchise center.
Exactly.
Like, why would you move him off to the wing at the end of his career where he never gets the puck? He's not passing in anybody, and you're playing fourth. This is the type of stuff that I don't want to see this anymore.
So I'll stand corrected, actually. I mean,
he didn't have 20 goals.
He had 20 goals, but he had 10 goals. He played that 2015-16 season. He played 7 games for the Flyers. In those 7 games, he had 0 goals. Then he got traded to the Kings. Well, he got scratched most of that season too, so that's why he only played 7 games as well.
Yeah.
But then he 42 games with the Kings. He had 10 goals, 7 assists, 17 points, and then in the playoffs he had 4 points in 5 games.
Mind you, he couldn't even play in our lineup.
That's what I mean. Yeah, but I'm saying on an 82 game pace, the guy's scoring like 20 goals for you, so it's kind of nuts.
But this is kind of what I'm saying is like when I see people say like, "Oh, this guy sucks," it's like, no fucking excuses. Berube, in retrospect, again, I'm still going to say Berube is a good coach. That was not the right move to take a franchise caliber player. Yeah, at the end of his career, fine, and to be like, and that's where you can hate on the way the Flyers handled Keith Yandel this year. I think they made a stupid decision at the end. That I'm not going to kill them for that. Like, it was dumb. The way they ended his streak was dumb. They should just ended it earlier. They were punished. Like, I forget who got injured because they played him immediately.
I think it was Sealer. Sealer and they had to put it back in.
Yeah, and then they had to put him back in because they did it like wrong.
They just looked real stupid.
Yeah. You did it wrong. But at the same time, it's like, you got to give him credit for not blaming everything on Yandel.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do that. They could have been like, Keith Yandel just wasn't very good. They didn't do any of that.
Well, the thing is, it's like they didn't
treat him with respect, dude. Yeah. You gotta give him that.
Exactly, but they also didn't sign the guy to like kind of be what he was with us. I mean, like they were envisioning that he's going to be the 6th defenseman on a good team. We can hide him.
And I mean, that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's what everybody thought. But that's what
I thought it was a great signing at first.
Yeah, well, look what and how he performed on a team like Florida, who was really good the year before when they were using him as a 6, kind of only on the power play, only on offensive situations. That's how you got to use a guy like that. But the Flyers just weren't.
We couldn't even use him like that though here.
Exactly.
We didn't have the structure around any of it. Like it's even surprising we were able to play as many young guys as we were able to without them kind of losing their minds because
you don't want to do that too, right? With a young guy, sometimes that's teams, they'll get hesitant. They'll be like, you know what, I'd rather have the guy play a lower level, kind of produce a lot more than get brought up. First off, you're not going to produce as much because it's your first cup of coffee. Then second of all, you're I guess taking in bad habits from this terribly structured team who's playing very poorly defensively. So
fun stuff.
Yeah, not great.
Let's talk about let's go back to the theme of this episode. And I like that you put this on the topic list. Captains. Yeah. We've talked about it a little bit here. There is no captain named, right? We don't even know who the assistant captains are at this point.
No.
Because we can assume everything is going to be restarted, right? And
Probably
as it should be. That's what happens when your team does what they did, collapses the way they did, trades away their coach. The guy who would have been, probably the captain last year is out, pretty much all year. The guy who maybe could have been another assistant captain didn't even play for your team. Then the other guy who's a big part of your leadership group didn't play majority of the year either because of surgery. Oh yeah, and went through like serious tragedy. Oh, and your best defenseman who also wore an A was having a year where the entire fan base was shitting on him and essentially didn't have his best year. So how do you give him a cat? Like we're in a weird year with captaincy, and I'd say the only player that is safe or in a better position leadership wise today than he was even a year ago is Scott Lawton. That's the only one that I think on this team, from a public perception, where his leadership abilities are not questioned at all. In fact, I would argue because he was there all year, a lot of people now kind of see the comfort zone that is Scott Lawton, who is this reliable guy who would typically say the right thing, give 100%, always play just well enough. Like he's never a bad player. You know, he's never been a bad player. And
you always know what you're going to get with him too.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people like that about him. And I think it brings the comfort. I do not expect him to be captain of this team. If he is, I will not cry about it. Right. What do you...
So wait, just to interrupt, Yuri.
No, go ahead.
Before we kind of hop in, do you actually think they will name a new captain? Because it's not, they don't have to, right?
You think so?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think they will too. I was just wondering your opinion because I know there's a lot of teams that have gone in the past where, you know, they have a storied franchise, you know, captain like a Giroux, and then they kind of wait a few years to kind of.
I think
another guy.
If Sean Couture wasn't here, I think if Kevin Hayes was the number one center of this team, I think we'd be much more open to that conversation. But the fact that you have a franchise caliber player in Sean Couture here, you can say that, but at a certain point, it becomes disrespectful to the guy. And I know people might not agree with me or that, but like, what has Sean Couture done to make you question him? Nothing.
Yeah.
So why would the organization go, you know, Sean, we didn't have a great year last year. We don't know about your leadership.
Even though you didn't play for like half of it. But.
Or they're going to look at their statistics, which show that the team drops like an entire point or goal against per game. The fact that they score half a goal a game when he's in. The fact that their winning record is substantially different when he's in or out. The fact that they drafted him, put him here, that he played with Giroux. Again, all of these things. And you can say a lot.
Well, what did we say? We said earlier podcast that Couture earlier in the previous season when he was playing, the team was 500, and as soon as he was out of the lineup, they immediately skyrocketed down. So it just shows, right? Obviously, the guy's impact. Who would you think, like if you're gonna name candidates, who's your top three? Would you say?
I think Coots is easily my number one.
Okay.
I think Kevin Hayes is my assistant captain from the standpoint that he is my good guy.
Okay.
He's my good guy. And then I typically like to balance it and create a leader of the D.
Yeah.
Like I want a captain of the D group, a captain of the forward group, and then a captain of the overall team. Goalie doesn't need a captain. They should be a leader regardless, in my opinion. There's only two of them in their position. But ideally, you know, I could definitely see Scott Lawton getting an A, 100%. I think it's kind of obvious that Hayes is getting one.
Yeah.
Just because of what, you know, and the impact he really does have on the team.
Yeah.
But
the players love him. So
yeah, but people might not like this for me. I've said it before, but what I think is important to do is to make sure that Provorov, not fake. I don't know what it's like in the locker room. If he's an asshole and a piece of shit, get rid of him. I don't believe any of that. But I would imagine, hey, you are the leader of this D. I want you to be that now. Like, no more Ellis here. We got you some good players. They're all about your age. You are the youngest or one of the youngest on this team still, but you are the best.
Yeah. And you've been in the NHL for a few seasons now. It's your time, right?
So to me, it's Provorov, Hayes, and Coots is your C. If I don't give it to Provorov, maybe Scott Lawton, maybe Justin Braun for a year temporarily.
And then who's your, because they usually do like an alternate, like on the road for home. So
I wouldn't do that. I would just do those three. Those are
okay, cool.
It's the leader of my D and my two top centers, which in this case happen to be the leaders of my locker room. You can make a case that Cam Atkinson should be in the conversation. You can make a case that TK should be in the conversation, that Joel Farabee should be in the conversation. I think TK and Farabee, they're in that next wave. Like,
I agree.
They're the ones coming up next to be leaders. And I think Provorov probably is in that group too, but he is the best of the D. And that's kind of why I point that out. And I don't know if Sanheim is that guy personality wise.
Yeah, he seems like more of a quiet, reserved type guy, right?
And I think Provorov is a quiet dude, but I think he's very much a type A personality. Like,
Yeah,
there's a reason he's a workout
and he's
machine
a very lead by example
and
type
very
player, I would
yeah.
say.
Like
Just in terms of his habits, how he prepares for the game,
dude,
right?
it kills me the way people are talking about him this year, and
Yeah,
I
I know.
love that.
Well,
I love
it,
the way Dennis Bernstein was
yeah,
mentioning him. By the way,
I agree. It kills me too because like you gotta understand, right? When you're building a culture and a team and a locker room dynamic, and let's say even you're fostering younger players like a Cam York, like an Igor Zamula, guys like that.
yeah,
Wouldn't Provorov be a guy that they say, hey, you know what? Look at him. See how he prepares. See what
that's
he's
what
doing off the ice.
that's
That's
what I was
what
talking about.
you
Yes,
need
I
to
need a
do,
leader of the
right? So
D.
like,
I
so
need
it
Cam
makes a
York
ton
to
of.
look at Provorov and be like, oh, I need to work as hard as Provorov.
I need to train as hard as him.
Yes,
Exactly. And that makes total sense to me. Like for me, my guys is Couture is the,
de facto.
easiest choice for a
Sure.
captain, pretty much.
Yeah.
Easiest choice to be captain. Why wouldn't you name the captain most valuable player for the team for you could arguably say the last three
Yeah.
seasons, just in terms of impact on the ice. And then Kevin Hayes as well is in there for me. And then Provorov, and I think the alternate on the road will be Atkinson.
I think look,
And that'll be
I,
four.
I think what you said is a lot of, I think the names that we said are the leadership group. I think it's going to
Pretty
come by
much.
committee or whatever. There is enough leadership in this locker room at this point. I don't want to hear any more
Yeah.
about leadership. If maybe they're not the right leaders, but there's enough people of age at this point to be good leaders.
Grab the reins, exactly.
It's going to come top down. Like I said, if leadership disappeared from this locker room, it's not because Claude Giroux is a bad leader. It's not because Jake Voracek was a bad leader or any. It's like, okay, maybe they weren't the best leaders. Maybe. I don't know. All that just seems highly debatable to me. I'm really looking forward to it, man. And like, I don't know. Like, what I was about to say about like, it really kills me because, you think a couple years ago about Provorov, and maybe it was 2 years ago now, right? Maybe three already. When we lost that series and Provorov was injured, he literally was playing with one arm the entire game.
Against the Penguins.
And he was like crying at the end of the game.
You could tell the guy really cares. That's why.
It's how did we go from Provorov gives us everything out there? He's giving us all to this guy. Like, I'm not gonna name any of the podcasts, right? But you guys can guess if you want. But I specifically heard him call him an asshole. And again, I don't know these people. I don't know Provorov well. Maybe he is an asshole.
Maybe he is, but he could also be the nicest guy in the world. How should
or
I
just
know?
a person. Just
Yeah, where you have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And just the narrative to go from this guy who's giving us his all to this guy's forgettable.
Well, you know what, man? I said it time and again on this podcast, and what I will say is, if you see a guy like that, like I said, he was crying after losing, a first round exit to the Penguins that all those years ago, maybe 3 seasons, something like that, shows he cares. And if you see him, getting, let's say, mad about the team playing bad, or being frustrated in press conferences, guess why? Because he cares. He's a competitor. He wants to win.
Yeah.
When the team's going out there and getting shellacked for 82 games a season like they did last season, most of the time, you don't think that takes a toll on a guy who's that ultra competitive and is frustrated and wants to win? Like, you think that doesn't take a toll on a professional athlete who's literally geared to, I want to win. We want to win. We want to do the best that we can. And you just had a full season of literally being one of the worst teams in the NHL. When before the season, a lot of people thought that they would be a playoff team. That is going to frustrate the hell out of anybody who's competitive, right? And Provorov's a competitor. So the fact that people are mad that they see him being frustrated makes zero sense to me. But that's just my perspective on it.
Yeah. We'll see. Maybe we'll eat our words, but
it's possible, yeah. Just to end out here, like a couple more topics, I would say. Do we just want to get into the list of like Flyers players who kind of returned? And are
go for it.
there before training camp? Okay, cool. So for all of you that don't know, training camp begins on the 21st of September. It is you'll be listening to this on September 7th. It's the 6th as we record. But as of the 6th, the players that are already back about 2.5 weeks before training camp in the area and just like training and scrimmaging at Voorhees would be Sean Couturier, Kevin Hayes, Joel Farabee, Scott Lawton, Cam Atkinson, Travis Konechny, Travis Sanheim, James Van Riemsdyk, Zach McEwen, Rasmus Ristolainen, Nick Delorier, Tony DeAngelo, Wyatt Wiley, Ivan Provorov, Cam York, both Kate's brothers, Ronnie Attard, Zayd Wisdom, Tyson Forster, Wade Allison, Hayden Hodgson, Linus Sandine, Felix Sandstrom, Colin Phoenix, and that's all courtesy of our very own Jamie Baskow, who is the greatest for providing that list in the first place. But I just thought it was interesting because the whole fucking team's already back, basically, minus Carter Hart and Morgan Frost.
They don't seem like they're ready to quit to me, do they?
Yeah, the whole team's there 2.5 weeks before training camp, obviously getting ready for a grueling Tortorella camp that he's known to produce.
This is why I wanted to get that conversation out of the way at the beginning of the
this makes me excited just because I mean, if all these guys are already back, to me, that ultimately shows that they're dedicated. They want this season to go well. They are putting the work in, for these things to happen, or ultimately are invested in this team doing better than they, are being projected to do. And even in my latest article that I put out yesterday, it was kind of going over the question marks. I mentioned that, there's a real us against everyone mentality, I think, breeding. And I mean, I think players are going to take that
most effective one.
Yeah, they're going to take that all in and say, everybody really thinks we suck, and guess what? We don't. The players take that to heart. You don't think they see the fact that every single projection so far has this team last in the division?
Easily.
That's locker room posted on the billboard.
They see that people are laughing at them.
Yeah,
I
think that's a good thing. To be honest, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, that is what, dude, we've been saying on this podcast for a while. This is what this team needs, is an us versus them mentality. It's the only. So this is what. So let's go back to that question I asked. What is Tortorella bringing that is different? And I think you kind of nailed it there. It's not holding accountable. It's in my opinion, that's not what he's doing. That's different. What he is doing is forcing them to believe in themselves again, as opposed to having the attitude of, I didn't do that well, maybe I can't cut it here. What do I have to go home and self-reflect on that maybe I can't fit an AV system? No, it's, hey guys, none of you are qualified to fit in my system. I'm raising all of the standards for all of you, that you must all be in the best shapes of your life.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or
buts. But he's also giving them the opportunity and saying too, you show up here and you put the work in with me, and you show me that you're putting the work in, and we're going to have success, right? And that's kind of it's the blueprint that he's bringing along with him.
He's giving them the tools to be successful. He's telling them what they need. This is exactly what we heard in the interviews. He's telling them what they need to be successful, and then he will give them the reward of the success, which will probably be playing time. And the one thing that we brought this up over and over again. Please, for the love of God, I need to see this. I have not seen this for so long. I want to see the Flyers be the best conditioned team on the ice. We never see it. We're usually the slower to start. We usually have to battle back at the end. I want to be the team that is the most annoying. Don't have to be the most talented. Just annoying to play against. Where no matter how late it is in the game, the top line center is still skating his ass off after you.
Just due to that conditioning too, and just seeing the fact that all these guys are back already, and to be fair, it's not like these guys just came back today. Most of these guys, I would say, a good 2/3 of this list has been in the area and been scrimmaging and working out and things along those lines for at least 2-3 weeks. So. It's been almost a month that a lot of guys have been around.
Don't you think that came
putting the work in?
Oh, I'm sorry to cut you off, but don't you think that came from that comment that Torts had? Because look, I was in I brought it up on here. I think I brought it up with Jim when we had him on. But in that press conference when we're interviewing the young guys who are at camp for the development camp, they were like, "Oh, we got to get ready for Torts." And that was the young guys. What do you think the freaking veterans are saying?
Exactly. He's
probably
really work it, give it to us.
Everybody's just calling Cam Atkins and said, all right, so
tell me what to do.
How many miles do I need to run a day, and at what point do I not throw up?
I think the interesting part for me on that list is Farabee, because Farabee's been scrimmaging.
I wanted to bring him up.
Yeah, he's been scrimmaging for I think since about 2-3 weeks ago, people have been seeing him on the ice, and now he's actually like in scrimmages with these guys. Everybody
He's gonna start the season.
remember when he got injured? Everybody was like, "This guy's falling. This guy's not coming back till January. Like, look at this team again. The
Yeah.
injuries again." Like, remember
He's
what
gonna
happened with
start. He's gonna
Eichel?
start the
Remember
season.
what happened with Eichel?
Yeah, it's the
And
exact
then he
same
came
thing.
back.
It's the exact
Same type
same
of thing.
thing.
Obviously, with this type of injury, especially I think too, if you're a younger guy,
People said that until the day he came back. By the way,
exactly.
To your point.
But that's the thing too. I think you have to factor in, right? When you're a younger guy, your body's going to recover a lot quicker. Obviously, we're not doctors. We don't know, how you're going to take to a surgery like this. But that's typically a rule of thumb in terms of recovery. The younger you are, easier, quicker your body recovers.
No, I think you're spot on there. But I'm sorry, just to add to that is I think there's also the element where this surgery is not that well known, so the recovery is probably not that well known either.
It might be overstated for a reason.
Look, I don't know shit about this at all.
Yeah, me neither.
Do not listen to me in a medical sense whatsoever. I'm saying that right now. But I do find it very interesting that Jack Eichel wanted this surgery, that other players are getting it now, and the recovery is much quicker than anticipated.
In the initial 5 months,
which tells me
more
that
about 3 or something like that.
That's a big reason why he wanted it, probably because he heard the recovery is less,
or there's a chance. There's a chance for it potentially, depending on maybe how you work on your rehab. Stuff or whatever, like that, right?
Or there's a history of it. And it's just not that well known, right?
Just seeing the guy script, like people are saying, "Oh, he's still probably not going to be ready, even though he's scrimmaging." I'm like, I don't know about that, man. If he's scrimmaging, let's say 3 weeks ago, that's the middle of August. That's basically like a total.
He absolutely could start. He absolutely could start the season at this
That's
point.
what I mean. I wouldn't
expect it, but it could definitely happen.
I wouldn't be surprised, especially too, if he gets into camp and looks good. It's really all going to be about the contact for him, right? Like once he starts taking contact, how do you feel?
Yeah.
And then from there, that's where you go off.
I think they would be wise to LTIR him, especially with the contract situations that they have going on.
Yeah.
But the problem is if he is legitimately ready, which again,
you can't use him for 10 games.
Yeah. And also you have to fake that.
Yeah.
which they're not going to do. So it really has to be, we don't know. Yeah, and that is kind of the tough part for Fletcher, for all the shit that he gets, the amount of unknowns that he has to deal with, it is not easy. Like, don't get me wrong, he hasn't done a great job, far from it, but some of the unknowns that he has to deal with, it's like...
exactly, I'm sure...
Didn't Ryan Ellis say he still expects to play this year?
I haven't heard anything like that.
Dude, but I'm pretty sure Sam Filippo reported that Ryan Ellis camp, they said, I expect to be playing this year. What is Fletcher supposed to do with that?
Interesting. I'm not sure. I didn't see that, but if that's the case, then I don't know what
he expects to try a comeback this year. That's what he said.
Adds to your point, though, that how are you going to foresee any of this as the GM first off? But also, do you think Fletcher started the offseason being like, oh, you know what? I'm pretty sure my 22-year-old on the brink of potentially being a star forward, Joel Farabee's going to fucking need neck surgery in a month and a half.
He admitted that he was just like, what?
He's like, no, is that really?
He just kept getting bad news every day. Poor, part of me does feel bad. Part of me feels better for Fletcher, man. Dude. Look, I don't know the guy, but man, it's gotta be stressful to have everybody wanting you to be fired all the time, and you're losing.
Literally everything the Flyers social media team posts, just underneath, there's just comments of "Fire Fletcher." When is he fired? Is he gone yet? It's so bad. I would hate to run that media account, man.
And honestly, it hurts my heart that this is where we are with the Flyers.
Yeah, it sucks. It definitely really sucks. One last thing.
Yeah.
We just want to give a prediction for who do you think is going to be the most valuable player on the team? Just randomly. I figured it'd be a fun throw.
Yeah, we can do it now, but it's definitely a conversation we should probably have to start the season.
I'm down.
After preseason, but
definitely.
So we're talking about team MVP?
Yeah, team wide, one player you think is going to be just he is the MVP.
Carter Hart.
Took the words right out of my mouth. It's kind of funny because, people probably listen to this these guys have the same opinions, but, trust me, we did not talk about this, and I was going to pick Carter Hart, so...
I actually had a thing written on here to talk about Carter Hart, and then I, decided to skip it.
Yeah, that's kind of hilarious, but I just think the things that will lead to him being the MVP is just everything that Tortorella will likely instill. With the structure, you'll get better play from the goalie because he's actually going to have help. And then thus you really see him kind of blossom and become that star. Because he has the talent, right? He just needs the team in front of him to kind of unlock it, I would say. And we've seen it in the past. Like, look at those. Look at when the team played well under Vino. Look at those 2 playoff rounds. He kept them in it against the Islanders for a lot of it. So he's shown he can do it in the past, right? So I think with just some structure and a lot more help from his defense and just the forwards helping the defense out, it's all kind of compounded into probably him performing better and being able to make more saves. Ultimately,
he is a true elite talent.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was trying to, again, I say this stuff ad nauseum. So if you guys listen to me often, you have definitely heard me say this stuff. Carter Hart was always early. So anybody who's jumping on Carter Hart, oh, he's not. You don't understand how goalies are developed.
Only
you were boring me.
23 years old.
I'm literally bored by your criticism. It's like I don't know what to do with it.
Say this all the time.
They're the best goalies in the league. Don't make the NHL until his age now.
Henrik Lundqvist literally his rookie season was 25, and Carter Hart's rookie season was 20. So
again, it's very rare to do anything he did. Shesterkin, again, these are rare things. They're rare things to be doing this. He's already in a rare class. John Gibson included. People don't talk about John Gibson because he's off in Anaheim where the team's not that good. But if he played on a good team, you definitely would know who John Gibson is.
100%.
And that's what happens when you bring in guys young. And I want to talk about this real quick because the other answer to that question is Sean Couturier.
That too, yeah.
Right. That is the other answer to that question. We have 2 elite players on this team right now that you can say are truly elite. That's Carter Hart and that's Sean Couturier, right? Carter Hart kind of hasn't really done it yet, but you've seen flashes of like true superstar, and Sean Couture has done it at times, right? Those are the only 2 guys you can really say. Maybe Provorov hit little hints of it, but he hasn't hit that level yet. Really, just those 2 guys. How old was Sean Couture when he had his breakout year? Let me just calculate it here real quick. I
believe he's like 26.
Maybe? He was 26 years old. So I want everybody to remember this, right? Because I want to look at the ages of the players here and the amount of them that are done developing. And I want you to remember how many of people gave up on TK and all these guys who were in their early 20s.
Actually.
Oh, I remembered to say this at the very end here, and I really want people to remember where the age of these players are right now. And this isn't just Couturier; it's also Voracek that went through this, and Giroux, and they all go through it. So when you have people who are very highly intelligent in hockey, which I don't doubt, but tell you that guys are done developing in their early 20s, you can ignore that. There is no evidence of that. In fact, I would say you're hitting your mid-20s with these players. It doesn't mean they're going to all hit Sean Couturier level, but this is about that time where
usually you're entering your prime between like 24 and 30, then you're exiting your prime around like 32, 33.
Right. Exactly.
Typically.
So most of these guys now
are entering their prime. And
does that mean they'll all hit?
No, but that's when their best seasons, best performances typically come out, which have not yet occurred.
And how old was Sanheim last year? 26 years old. 26?
Was he actually 26? Okay.
I'm pretty sure he's 26 years old.
Okay.
And that was the best season he's had as a Flyer. Okay. In combination to other things, but let's see what he can do when the team's actually good. You know, like these players aren't actually who they are in their early 20s. I don't know where this came from.
Yeah, you're right. Sanheim's 26.
Yeah, I don't know where this came from. Where people like I hear it repeated so often with zero hesitation, and I have no idea what people are talking about.
It's just the team lost a lot of games, and they like to be mad.
But they talk about it. But they talk about it with like everybody.
Oh yeah, of course.
Just because you can point at 1%ers in the NHL and be like, oh, at 24 years old, Sidney Crosby had his highest. Who cares?
99% of the league did not do that. Yeah,
that's my point. So I don't care about any of that. Those are outliers. So let's talk in reality where most players develop, like exactly what you said, 25, 32. That's your prime window.
Pretty much.
And we're entering that. So
I would argue
that's happens. That's probably
that's for people in life in general.
Yes.
Just in terms of developing themselves, right?
In fact, I would say this more and more that if you do not have a growth mindset as a human being and you believe that you hit your limitation, you're in trouble. Now, I'll be honest with you. Like, that is the number one ingredient to being successful is not believing
that there's more, right? I'm sure most of these guys are NHL professional hockey players because they do believe and think 100%. That way, that they 100%. Can improve every season, right?
100%. And look, it's always good to be realistic with yourself, but again, like that doesn't really help when it comes to like building confidence and getting better. And okay, let's end this. Vasili, you have a vacation upcoming. Do you have anything that you are working on? Any writing stuff that's coming out soon?
I should actually have an article today while you all are listening to this. So
Yep.
there should be something for you guys to read. I just had an article out actually just a few days ago, just talking about question marks and uncertainties within the Flyers and how there's actually a lot of silver linings within those question marks, which we kind of touched on actually today in this podcast. But if you want to see a kind of more of an in-depth look on that, check it out on Flyers Nitty Gritty. And I really appreciate you guys all just giving it a read and all the support you guys give us.
Yeah. And you know what? I was just thinking about they're starting to release the NHL ratings for players. So next time the NHL 23 has the ratings for the Flyers, we'll go through that.
Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
That'll probably come out relatively soon. But yeah, some good stuff there, and definitely make sure to check out Vasili's writing. He's more consistent than I am in writing. I'm pretty much doing only podcasts at this point, and I don't even spend any time on Twitter because it drives me nuts. And apparently, most of Twitter's bots. Did you guys know? I'm just kidding. Anyway, but thank you again. Really appreciate everybody listening. Like, we know it's a little bit of a slow season. We saw our numbers go up, and then obviously we had this slow season now, going down a little bit as expected. But we're right there. And Vasili and I are working on some stuff.
Some cool stuff that we can't really.
We don't want to tell you because if it falls through, we feel like idiots. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's gonna be fun. You guys are all gonna love it.
Yeah. And we're gonna keep doing more and more, and yeah, just and if you guys have suggestions of people you want us to have on, try to message us, whatever. We'll try. We're trying. We haven't tried enough yet. Now we're really trying, so hopefully it'll pay off. We'll see. I don't want to say anything. Cool. Thank you again for listening. We love you. Like, subscribe, share, do the whole rating thing. Shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks, 4th and South. When they're back up and running, make sure to get a steak at Jim's and 4th and South. And again, thank you for listening. And remember to always stay gritty.